is a video that a lot of people have asked me for a long time. This is like what everybody's like, gotta do this, gotta do that, gotta do this video. So finally, I'm giving you guys what you want. Today, we're going over the whole setup on the truck, whether it's like, we're going over the whole setup on like the truck itself, the tranny, the motor. I'm gonna get into everything I possibly can that I can remember off the top of my head. And so it's not a boring video. I'm also gonna like talk about where the truck is like came from, like its start to where it is now. And I'm also gonna put in all my burnout videos that I have from this truck since it's been a high horsepower truck. So we're gonna make this interesting. Bear with me. To start things off, we're gonna talk about how I got here. So in 1996, my parents, I'm just kidding. So in 2014, that I had this, that I first got this truck. I had it like the very end of senior year. It started out as like basically like daily driver, like a weekend like camper polar, whatever you want to call it. It was completely stock. All that was in it, I think, was the set of gauges up on the dash, like a 3-pot, I think came factory, and it had an aftermarket tranny cooler on it. And besides that, it was completely stock. Wait, no. It had a Banks muffler on it with a 3.5-inch exhaust to the tailpipe. So that's pretty much all it was. I got it, and the truck was like mint shape. This thing was absolutely freaking gorgeous. And now looking back, I almost wish I would have kept it the way it was when I got it, just for that like sleeper look. I don't know, it'd almost be kind of cool, but don't get me wrong, I freaking love the way it looks now. So start off like we all do. Start tweaking the pump. Gotta freaking get a little more power out of it. Blow black smoke. Freaking black smoke, sick, dude. Black smoke, dude. So turn off the pump for a little while. Then you're like, oh, it's good for now. And then obviously things change. We all know how that goes. That's never enough. Right off the bat, when I got the truck as well, I had a 4-inch lift in it on 35-inch Nitto trail grapplers. So it was pretty much like a yee freaking truck, like mud truck action. Ripped it like that for a long time. Actually, it probably wasn't even that long. It was probably about a year I had it like that. I want to say it was pretty much all that was done to it. Just pump tweaks and the lift and mud tires for the longest time. Sold the mud tires that were on it with intentions to lower it. And I put some garbage steely tires on for the time being. And those ended up staying on there while I was lifted for like probably a couple of months. It was freaking terrible. I mean, it was the worst freaking thing ever. Absolutely atrocious. But not long after that, lowered it down back to its stock height. I got a set of Rock Stars with some mud tires on them. Ran them for about a year. Got sick of them. But while I had the those Rock Stars on there, not that this is like based off of wheels, but while the Rock Stars were on there, it had, or we actually ended up putting in like a set of eBay like DAP like 5x16, I think they were injectors, or put governor springs in the injection pump. Got 3,800 RPM governor springs, so nothing crazy. Put in 60-pound valve springs, so I was the fastest thing on the freaking planet. Put a 63mm turbo on it, and then the big thing was actually put this tranny right here in the truck that year over the winter. And when I put the tranny in there, right off the bat, we had a billet input shaft. It had like a mild build-in. It was good for like maybe 600 horse. And then right off the bat, we also had the Go-Ren triple disc at a stock stall. That was the year that we drove all the way to Indiana for UCC. And then shortly after that, we blew up the rear diff. We put some sort of locker in it. I can't remember what the heck locker it is, but I got bored of the Rock Stars. And then actually, this is the set of rims I've had on there since then. And I put like a universal mount for a filter on with a Raptor 165. Switched to a 66mm turbo. That's pretty much all I changed horsepower-wise. Ripped that for a long time. I actually dynoed it. It was like 490 horsepower, I think, at like 800 foot-pounds of torque. Nothing crazy. So I bought my house. This is, I guess, 3 years ago now, so it's be 2017 is when I bought the house. So finally I have the house. Now we're basically working out of this shop. Pull the bed off, pull the doors off, pull the hood off, everything. And we color matched the whole truck. Obviously did a whole paint job. Everything's color matched, mirrors, grill, blah, 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 bumpers. And the motor we put in it had to be compounded. Had to have the compounds. Thought for sure it wouldn't run right because being a 12 valve, that wouldn't run right without compounds. It would be Smoky Pig. Put compounds on it. We dynoed it. I think around 750 with the compounds on. And put a bigger lift pump spring in, and we threw a rod and motor. Motor's completely trashed. Giant hole inside the block like this big. That pretty much ended that season for me. It sat for a few months. We didn't get out till the following year. The following year, we got another motor, which is the motor I still have. And we ran a 476, what I thought was an 87 turbine wheel. Ended up being an 83. So I had all sorts of like over boosting and barking problems. And truck pretty much made, it felt like it made all the same power as the compounds. Ran pretty good. Brought to the track. Broke the input shaft of the transfer case. This is the second time that happened. First time was with the compounds. And yeah, after I broke that shaft, that was the end of the season last year with that motor set up. And that brings us to current. So, up to date now on where this truck's pretty much started. I'm probably missing a few things here and there, but it gives you guys a general rundown of what's going on. So I'll move over and start talking about the motor. This is the freaking bread and butter right here. This is what everybody wants to know about. So we'll start from the front, work our way back. Right at the front here, we got a fluid damper. Gotta have it for the high RPM stuff. Whether you're running a freaking 12 valve, a freaking 24 valve, freaking 5.9 common rail, whatever. You're spinning high RPM, gotta have it. Right here we got a sick homemade coolant bypass thing I made. There's no thermostat in it. It was just basically like a easy fix for me to help stop blowing head gaskets and keep some heat off the back cylinders. Any performance application or any performance Cummins, I guess you could say, if you guys are spinning high RPM, pushing a lot of power, gotta have a coolant bypass on them. It saves them. They get really hot in the back two cylinders, and you need it for performance application. Right up in the front here, we got our Hamilton cams. We can billet tapping cover or billet timing cover. This is actually a piece that the same guy that does my training work, he had that made at a machine shop that he works with. I threw a Hamilton cam sticker on there because I thought it made it look kind of sharp. But yeah, injection pump. We got a adjustable pump gear. Not sure whose it is, but it's an adjustable pump gear. So you just pop this cover off, and you can do all your timing adjustments right through here. Dual fuel feed. We got a rack plug up in the front, so we get more rack extension inside the pump. We have full cut delivery valves. They're 5K governor springs, and just your basic AFC mods. There's no fuel plate in it at all. Behind here we have a Hamilton 188-220 cam. It's the base cam you could run without running a piston with a relief cut in it. So it's basically just like a stock drop-in. Kind of brings your power range up a little higher for especially the bigger single applications. Injectors are 5x18 Haley speed. Supposedly those are supposed to be good for 900 to 1,000 horse. We're gonna freaking test that this coming season. We got our Banks twin ram intake. Came with the motor, but it's a freaking pretty nice piece. I'm kind of glad I have it. So under the valve covers we have Hamilton 105-pound beehive spring with the titanium retainers and keepers. We have Hamilton extreme duty push rods. We have 425 head studs, which are not holding up. If anybody is running or planning on running like a harsh setup with high RPM, like over 700 horsepower, I would definitely recommend just freaking go for the 625s right off the bat. Especially if you're running a firing head gasket. This has a firing gasket in it, and myself and Matt with the P-Pump 24 valve both seem to have problems with the firing head gaskets without having 625s. So I would recommend if you're running fire rings or making high horsepower, just run the 625s and save yourself the money right off the bat. So we're obviously running a Steed Speed manifold. Our turbo is a Forced Inductions 476 with a 93 turbine and a 90 hot side. This is their V4 style cover. I'm not really sure what's all different as far as V4, V3, V2, whatever, but that's the newest and latest, greatest thing they have right now. At least that I know of. But that thing seemed to rip pretty freaking hard on this truck. I'm not really sure how it works on other trucks. I assume just as well. But that thing has been freaking awesome. Super happy with that. I think that pretty much just wraps it up for the motor. It's not a really crazy setup. Oh, bottom end. Only thing we have in the bottom end is ARP rod bolts, just for the high RPM, so we don't stretch out the stock ones. But I think that's it. We got a billet tappet cover over here, also made by the same guy that did this front timing cover. Yeah, like I said, not a super crazy setup. Moving on to the tranny. Now this bad boy right here. Oof. Ugh. Is it 47 RH? Now right off the bat, if I could go back and start over, I would make sure I got a 47 RE because the tail shaft housing is different. It's like 6 inches shorter and they have a stubbier output shaft. And you can get a fatter shaft for their way less tendency to break. People say that even with the billet output shaft on these trannies, that you can still break them at like 800 horse. So we're really testing that. But we have up front here, we have a Go-Rend triple disc torque converter. It's stalled at like 2,500, 2,600 RPMs, somewhere around there. I'm not really sure the exact specs on this turbo or on this torque converter, but has a billet input shaft. He does all sorts of magical stuff inside with the clutches that I don't really know about. It's a stock intermediate, a billet output shaft. All the shafts are still a 23 spline in this as well. It's still just a factory valve body that we switched over to a full manual. Yeah, that's pretty much it on the train. There's nothing super crazy with this either. It's got a B&M deep pan on it. Now the transfer case, if you have a truck like this that had a factory 727, the transfer case has a 23 spline input shaft going into the transfer case. There's like a sleeve that binds the two together. I had to find a sleeve that adapted from a 23 up to a 27, and we had to buy a 27 spline input, which comes in the manual trannies. So if you have like if you're one of these trucks with the get rag in it, with a 5-speed, you would have the 27 spline right off the bat. But I didn't have it, so Matt helped us out big time. He was able to machine the case out for us to accommodate for a bigger bearing, a bigger shaft, all the bigger seals and everything. And that took care of my problems. I broke 2 of the 23 spline inputs, and I just had enough of screwing around. So I cut my best time yet with this tranny setup just the way it is. Same thing with that motor. Alright, now we're on super awkward GoPro stick thing. It's sitting on fuel turbos. They are a negative 44 offset. They're a 20 by 12 rim. These tires are they're a Nitto 420V 295 45 think. Let me check that. Double check here. Okay, 295, 45, 20. Nitto 420V. So that's the rims and tires that it's sitting on. As far as like frame stuff, I haven't really changed anything, to be quite honest. Everything's pretty much stock in the frame. Suspension wise, we took out a ton of leaves last year. We took out probably 10 leaves throughout the whole truck. Up front here, I think we're running 3 leaves in the front. I want to say 3 in the back. Somehow this thing's still on the stock tie rod ends and stock ball joints, and they're still freaking tight somehow. I have no idea. What I have added on the front axle here is just my brackets to hold my my front ladder bars. Yeah, nothing crazy up front here. I put the cab lights on myself. They're just eBay special. All right, in the truck. So underneath here, oh, you can see it now because I pulled the carpet up. Underneath here, there's a few layers of Kill Mat sound deadener that actually quiet the truck down like a ton. I put it inside the doors here as well. So when you close these doors, like everybody, those of you that have first gens, you know how they sound and how, I don't know, how like everything rattles around the door. Ever since I put that sound deadener in, it's just like a nice freaking solid door shutting. I don't know, it's just so satisfying. But replace the carpet here. Not that you can tell, it's super dirty. Don't mind all the wires hanging down. I am currently working on some secret wiring situation going on for a future video. Let me just get right in here. 5% tint all the way around. Windshield just has a 5% brow. One thing I caught some people's attention on with this truck is the overdrive and lockup. Actually, the cruise control doesn't work anymore, so this cruise control button is tied in to be my lockup switch, which is really handy having it right here by your thumb. Overdrive switch is this little dinky button right here behind the steering wheel. That's how she goes in overdrive. Gauges up here. The only gauges that work are voltage, the speedometer, oil pressure, and fuel work. So the only one that doesn't work, I guess, is just the coolant temp at this point. Got our edge monitor up here. This is where like the factory information center is for like weight to start, and like brakes and like all the brake lights and stuff like that. Just a Pioneer radio here. Came with it when I got it. Just a freaking simple single-din radio. And then we have a, for our shifter, it's a B&M Stealth Pro Ratchet, I believe is what this one's called. It's not like a gated shifter. You have to pull a lever when you're shifting through your gears to, so you bump into second with a gated one, and then you pull your lever and then bump into third. But I never really seem to like that because the gate, if you don't squeeze it all the way in, you could accidentally bump into neutral. But like this shifter is like absolutely foolproof. Like you can only push it so far. You push as far hard as you can. You're only getting one gear at a time. So that's been really nice for racing. It's one thing you don't have to focus on is what you're doing with your shifting. Just nice, you just bump it right into gear. Then we have a handbrake here for the rear tires. Not really any reason for that. Just something I added that I can control for more fun. Like it seems to me like the more stuff you can control yourself, like the more fun it becomes. But that's pretty much does in here. I actually did redo this headliner at one point myself. It's just a regular black headliner material. It took me forever to clean off the shell to get all the old foam off from the stock one. Behind the seat, ooh, on this side we got our nitrous tank. Behind the seat on that side we have a 10-inch kicker subwoofer. And seats, they're getting pretty beat up. Probably gonna change them out here at some point. Not really sure what yet, but these are just like work truck seats out of a 2010, like a 4th gen Ram. The previous owner before we put those in there, which is sick because I'm glad I didn't have to do it, and he actually did it pretty well. Oh boy, what else we got here? Let's see, bed. We got a roll pan. That's pretty much it. We got a roll pan, and we got taillights out of a Dodge Dakota because the factory first gen ones in this had like a chrome strip around them and I couldn't stand it, so this has like a nice little thin black trim piece on it. I think we pretty much got everything. The nitrous shot I was using last year for the dyno and racing and everything was the most of it was a 150, and then I think at the very end I race spotted 2 at 200 at the couple last passes, but it didn't really make any difference. We're just out of fuel on the setup. Greatest. Oh, also, I don't know what brand this radiator is, but it's a full aluminum radiator. It's a really nice freaking piece. There's a guy on eBay that sells them. I don't know the name of the seller, but I know that if you go on there and look up at a radiator for one of these trucks, it'll come right up. Durali Performance Electric Fans is what I was using last year. They move a lot of air. I think they're like 5,000 CFM between the two of them. Plenty enough to cool down on like a 90-degree day when the truck was hot. Turn them on, and it usually cools it right back down. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. Lots of changes coming this winter. Nothing like crazy as far as horsepower, but just lots of stuff that should have been done a long time ago. And the one thing that everybody always wants to know is the color of this truck. And I'm not going to tell you. Because I've told you guys everything else done to the truck. That's the one thing I want to keep to myself. So, yeah. Not a super crazy setup on the first gen. But it definitely, for what it is, it's pretty impressive as far as performance. At least as far as I'm concerned. You guys can think whatever you want. But I think it does pretty good for only being the horsepower level that it's at and still running good track times and just ripping nasty burnouts. Yeah, so I guess we'll freaking cut over some freaking sick burnouts. Before we cut over to the burnouts, if there's anything that I missed out on this truck that you guys really want to know about that I didn't cover, because there's a lot of stuff. There's never really anything on this truck that I haven't touched or worked on. So it's very possible that I could have forgot something. So if I missed anything, just comment below what you want to know, and I'll make sure I answer your questions.